All right.
Ta-da. See? That's how it works.
Well,
All right.
I was on my laptop. It wasn't working. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I
Okay.
mean, if can you raise volume a little bit, do you think?
Sure, maybe.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. So that's as
All right.
loud as it goes.
Okay. So let's make this the shortest interview in the history of martial art. Ultimately, isn't it all about mindset?
Well, what moves the body?
Right. Okay, that's it. Good. Thank you very much. Right. No, guys, I'm just kidding. So let me officially welcome everyone to episode number 5 of the Jeet Dialogues. I call this one a special edition simply because Mr. Horton is not a Jeet guy per se, but by the time we're done in another 50 minutes or so, you'll understand why he is actually a Jeet guy, even if he himself doesn't know it. Right. So I met Greg a few years ago, and I believe it was initially through Neil Coliff,
Yes.
right? And last week when I was talking to Mark Mills, your name came up again, and I thought, you know what, Mr. Horton and I are overdue for a conversation. So he graciously accepted my invitation to come on to the dialogue show. So I have to start with a confession. When we first met and we first spoke, you introduced me to, I think it was a 3-pronged concept. And I know that structure and emotion were in there, but then I forgot what the other stuff was. So sure. I called, I spoke to Helena Coliff, and she filled me in. So it's structure, emotion, knowledge.
And legacy.
And legacy. Okay. Now, okay, 4 things. Break that down for me again.
That's a great question. So the structure. So at Mastery, all of our instructors teach from this perspective. So the first thing that we do is we get structure. So in our school, that's the set point. So we don't begin teaching or learning until we prepare people to accept the learning. So structure, boom. The second thing we add is emotion, because studies have already showed, neuroscience, that when the brain and the energy in the body is high, the learning happens faster and the length of retention is longer. So we have structure, boom, we have emotion, and then the third thing is knowledge. Now, you already know when you dive into something difficult or a compound or really challenging, the energy gets depleted immediately. Yeah. Right. So for somebody new doing double stick drills, their brain will hurt when we get into crossing patterns. So the energy immediately drops because they can't sustain the energy, because that information is needed to mentally get through the difficulty of moving the stick. Right. So so think about it this way too at school. Think about school teachers in elementary schools. Structure, emotion, knowledge, and legacy. Where do school teachers begin in that process at school when they teach? Knowledge. You see the problem? You see the problem already? So we didn't get compliance, and we haven't introduced energy, so we're relying on an 8-year-old child to have their own energy, and it's a big mistake. We have to energize them. That's why they're in our classes. So we teach martial arts. So here it is, ready? If you have structure, which is discipline, if you have emotion, which is passion, if you have knowledge, then you become a leader. Because people want to follow disciplined, emotional, who have a lot of drive in life, and also who have some knowledge about whatever area you're leading them in. When those 3 things are aligned, then you become a leader. Nobody wants to follow an undisciplined person, right? Right.
Now, see, what I find interesting, and this is something I've always found interesting in my interactions with you, you go structure, emotion, and that immediately makes me think in terms of the scene in Enter the Dragon, where Bruce Lee says to the student, we need emotional content, not anger. You see? So that puts me then in mind. Here's a question I had for you. You know who Brendan Burchard is?
Sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I remember once listening to Brendan talk about a thing called proprietary language and frameworks. And I listened to what he was teaching, and then I applied that to Jeet Kune Do, and I thought, let me ask Greg this. Before, let's say, Neil Collif,
Mm-hmm.
had you heard in martial art the idea of the 4 ranges of combat or the 5 ways of attack?
Not the 5 ways, but maybe 3 ranges of combat, not the.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. See, so to me, what that indicates then is that Jeet Kune Do possesses a certain degree of proprietary language,
Mm-hmm.
because they're phrases used in JKD that have now been exported to the martial art world at large.
Sure.
Right, that originated in JKD, right? So I think then that we have structure.
I believe that your teaching has more structure than you allude to. It has,
Wait,
like, the whole idea of JKD is to be formless, right? Or unfortunately, I was going to make a joke, I won't do it, but there is very much a structure to the way Sifu Neil teaches, or you there's very much a progression, and you could align that word progression with structure. They have,
right.
they're very similar, right? So I think it very much is very structured. It's just not structured in the way that maybe there's movements that are structured, but the thinking is structured, right? The progression is structured. I see them all as the same thing.
Right. So then would you say then that an element that's missing what would you say then is an element that's missing? Because as somebody who has peered into Jeet Kune Do,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say then is a defect or something that's missing from the Jeet Kune Do approach that you've been introduced to?
With regards to what? With what outcome? What result?
Interesting.
Ah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's where you start.
Mm-hmm.
What's the result?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say it's a guy who wants to, start a school.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got the certification, he's done the training, he's got the knowledge, he wants to start a school. It's just him. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So now he's got the financial wherewithal to, and congratulations, by the way, for those of you who are chiming in, Mr. Horton, when he jumps off from this meeting, he's got a meeting for opening up school number 7.
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's excellent. Okay, so this guy is you, 25 years ago, right? Okay, so it's just him, but he wants to open up. What could he do?
Sure. So all of the business elements, regardless if it's martial arts or dry cleaning business, any business, they're all the same. They all have the same functions. I mean, that never changes. There's the message, right? Attraction is the message. It's not only what the message is, but it's how it's delivered, what colors, what shapes, that kind of thing. For example, my logo, the Mastery logo, that's about 12 years old. And I had 2 fonts. I had the block font and the scripted font. We knew we teach children, so who shops for children martial arts? It's mom. Dad doesn't shop for it. So I went around with the book to everybody I could find and said, which logo do you like? All the women selected the script. All the men selected the bold. Now, we knew that the men weren't our target because they weren't going to bring their kids in. Mom does that shopping. So look who won. So yeah. I think same thing.
Is it possible for you to stay closer to, because I get better audio from you when you're closer in?
You should be. I'm in my earpods right now. You should hear them through my earpods.
Okay.
So basically.
Sounds better there.
All right. So basically, it's really what you're trying to achieve, right? So we knew we were trying to achieve attraction to mom.
Yes.
So what does mom want? Safety for her children, being able to protect themselves a little bit, by the way. It's not as big as what you think. They wanted a safe environment. They wanted them to learn. They wanted socializations. They wanted structure. They wanted discipline. They wanted confidence. So we did a poll not too long ago on my student page. There's about 2,000 moms on the page. And we asked, what part of class do you enjoy most? Self-defense was dead last.
Yeah.
Dead last. So,
interesting.
You know, if you're defending yourselves 3 times a week, you don't have a martial arts problem. You have an attitude problem. If you're using your physical martial arts in a self-defense setting more than once, I don't know, fill it in. Every 3 years, every 4 years, every 12 months, we have a different kind of problem. So anyhow, to circle back, with regards to Jeet Kune Do, what market are you trying to attract? Are you trying to attract the 25-year-olds, the 35-year-olds, the 45-year-olds, right? And they're all different. So a 25-year-old might be just getting out of college and just starting their career. A 35-year-old, well, probably has some kids at home. Some 45-year-olds, kids are just in high school. Now the dad has time.
Yeah.
My daughter's 2, so I did it in reverse. So I think you have to really define that market to realize what result am I trying to achieve.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
You know, that's interesting. See, because when I thought of the question, I was thinking more in terms of what he should do in running the school.
We can't get there yet. We haven't identified the market yet. Right?
Right. Yeah. No, I do it. Message, market, media. The marketing triangle. Yeah. So then based on that, right? Style doesn't matter. The art that you're teaching doesn't matter.
It's irrelevant.
Okay. Then what accounts for the greater popularity of certain arts or certain styles compared to others?
It's a great question. So it's about attraction. What attracts somebody to one thing over another thing? What attracts somebody to mainstream versus something not mainstream? Right? You find these people, they like this certain shoe because nobody has it, like a skateboard shoe or something. And then the moment it goes mainstream, it gets out of boutique and gets into, you know, Macy's. All of a sudden that group doesn't want it anymore. They're on to the next thing that only a few people like.
Right.
I feel like that's a little bit of what JKD is about. It's a very small group that wants to be authenticated and wants to do that level of training. Where this other group, let's use Taekwondo, probably one of the largest martial arts-based attraction in the world. It's linear, it's one-dimensional, it's really easy to teach. And it aligns with what a parent is looking for, right? As opposed to bringing a kid in class, first day, 2 sticks going, let's go. And then the kid's banging himself off the elbow, the back of the head. Mom's looking at him like, this isn't really working. I mean, if a child comes into a class or somebody, and the first lesson they take, they feel terrible, there's a good chance they're not coming back.
Exactly.
So the progression has to match exactly who it is that you're working with to get them through the progression, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I think it takes about 10 years to get good martial arts. So that's our window, is 10 years. We don't have any fallacies about how quickly that we can accomplish that goal.
When you say that's your window, are you saying your goal is your retention goal is 10 years?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think it takes about 10 years to get good.
It does.
You know, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a pilot. I fly a small airplane. And when I got my pilot's license, just because I got the license, I wasn't ready to fly my mom and dad yet.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So even though you get the license, it doesn't mean yet you're ready. And I think that's kind of what becoming a black belt is to some degree, or becoming a new instructor. You may have the title, but you haven't had the experience yet.
Yeah.
So 10 years to me is a good number, and it's a good foundation for us to give the parents to say, this is going to take 10 years. Or to say to our instructors, this is going to take 10 years. It just opens people's mind a little bit. That's all.
Okay. So if 10, that's interesting, because I've never heard anybody express it that way. Anybody actually say up front that a retention goal could be or should be about 10 years for a student. I've never heard anybody say that before, but it makes perfect sense. But instead, what you hear in the industry is, oh, well, they're going to quit inside of, 6 months or I mean, there's even been the time where it was like, well, let's get as much money as we can from them up front because they're going to be gone.
Right.
If they're not gone in months, they'll be gone in 3 years.
Yep.
So we have Black Belt Club, which is a 36-month contract, and then we don't expect to see them anymore. But here you're being radical and saying, no, 10 years is a thing.
Imagine walking into this new school that you're talking about. And maybe it's visual, maybe it's a painting, but it's a journey. Here's year 1, here's year 2, and then here's what you'll experience along this journey. All of a sudden, it makes 3 years look like nothing, because we're looking at it in a bigger perspective, right?
Yeah, but see, what you're also talking about, forget martial art. You're just talking about the amount of time that it takes to become almost like a real human being.
Good at anything. It's not just martial arts. Piloting, the same thing. I'm still working on piloting, right? You're 15 years later. So, like my golf game, still working on that. My snowboarding, still work. Like life is a process. There is no end. There is no beginning. It's just a continuation, right? Yeah. And we keep evolving as we rise in that circle, but we keep growing. We keep refining.
So how then do we deal best with the notion that when it comes to developing themselves, it's only like 1 in 100 that's going to make it, or it's only like 1 in 100 that's even interested in the pinnacles of self-development?
So there's 3 E's: empowerment, education, entertainment. Which one is the most popular?
Entertainment.
Hands down. Which one is the least? Empowerment.
Empowerment.
It's by far the least. But it's the one we need the most.
Yeah.
So we need to stop being spectators and start being active in our life intentionally. Right? You and I were talking the other day. So for me, it's about how do I define the most special things that we do at Mastery that are most valuable? For example, this may or may not be received well, but I'm going to say it anyhow. There's no correlation in life between having a great sidekick and a great life. There's plenty of people with, a phenomenal sidekick, but that sidekick alone doesn't mean that they put the pieces of their life together, right? Relationship and discipline and structure, and just doing something they really love, having financial discipline. So there's no correlation. So what I'm after with Mastery is, how do I define the most valuable things in our program? And then how do we identify them and then define them and then share them with the people we're trying to attract with that business, so that I can say to mom, here's the martial arts, but here are the 6 underlining DNA to what we're going to teach your child.
Yeah.
And one of them is the yes, I can attitude. Another one is failure is your friend. Part of our script in our program is parents, when you fail their child, they get upset. But when we reframe it in such a way, reframe it and say, parents, this failure is an opportunity to help your child grow, because they're going to fail. We fail. All of us fail in our life every day. But the quicker we can recover, the more successful, the chance of being successful will be greater. There are some people that failed at something 9 years ago and they're still depressed. They never learned how to get themselves out of it. So these are 2 values in Mastery that we're using to promote. But to me, that's more valuable than the kick of the punch could ever be.
So going back to the imaginary school.
Sure.
So let's say this guy, he's got it up and running. Now he's got 1 or 2 people helping out. His structure, there's got to be basic training, and then there's got to be advanced level training. So from the little that I know about the traditional martial art, there's like basics training, black belt training, master's club, leadership. Is that an indispensable structure for martial arts schools regardless?
We enroll students at white belt right onto leadership. Some enroll in that membership right away, and then we have a class plan that supports it. So there are 2 paths that you can take in our program. One is significantly better than the other, but it's not up to us. It's up to the family to decide what's right, what's based on their schedule, how much time a week they're willing to put into it, where their head is now as a parent and what they see the world as.
Right.
That's not something we can control. We can just offer it and then allow them to select their path. But going back to structure, right? Before you even get to what you're trying to address, there's a structure to the schedule.
Yeah.
There's a structure to the way the class plan is. There's a structure to the way we prepare an instructor to deliver that class.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. See, and that's why, like, one of our concerns was that some of the people who might see this conversation between us will be like, oh, well, they're just talking about selling,
right.
you know, karate, selling
right.
martial arts. But that's not at all what
right.
we're talking about.
Right.
We're talking about structure for yourself,
right.
structure for your own life.
Right.
Right. Because without that,
yep.
nobody. So yeah, I mean, and I think that's one of the reasons why sometimes even so-called martial artists, they don't realize how to apply the philosophies of martial arts outside.
Bingo. If I don't know if Sifu Neil is on this right now, but when I explained to him my leadership and staff development program, he said to me, "This is genius. Where did you learn this from?" I said, "I learned it from you." He goes, "What do you mean?" And then I started to point out all the philosophies in JKD, and I showed
right.
it to him how it was working in my program. And he was like, kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't see it. He didn't see the parallel. I get it right away. And so
tomorrow, yeah, in tomorrow's broadcast, I'm doing a Q&A. So I've collected a bunch of questions that I've fielded over the years, and one of them actually is, how do you apply Jeet Kune Do philosophies
mm-hmm.
outside of martial
mm-hmm.
art? And I had an opportunity to view somebody else who had tried to answer the question, and his answer was a list of Bruce Lee quotes. Right? And I thought, yeah, okay, yeah, that's a great.
We memorize first to internalize, right? So
yeah.
To go back to structure, you can already see that this hair. Luckily, I have some, but every other Wednesday at 12:30, I get a haircut, and
mm-hmm.
because of that, I don't have to remember it or put it in a schedule. Every Monday and Wednesday from 10 to 12 for the last 15 years, we have a staff meeting with my group.
Yeah.
I don't ever miss it. 15
right.
years. So I know 2 years from now on a Monday at 10 o'clock, I'm going to be at my staff training. It doesn't change. So
mm-hmm.
that's kind of what you're alluding to. How do you use this idea to make your life easier, to not need an appointment scheduler like most people do? So,
well, last week, I showed the viewers of the broadcast some pages from The Art of Expressing the Human Body. So it was actually reproductions of Bruce Lee's Daytimer,
mm-hmm.
which is just like one of the world's greatest depictions of discipline and dedication, because it was everyday training. And there was, again, we've been overusing the word
mm-hmm.
structure
mm-hmm.
to it, you know, mm-hmm. nothing about it. So we have, at the far end, we have this thing called Jeet Kune Do, and the ultimate goal is formlessness, right? So it's like my shirt, right? So respond like an echo, you know, moving, right? Be like, I mean, all this stuff. But he's one of the most disciplined and structured people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You see? And I think that's one of the conundrums, I think. The idea of formlessness, but this belief that you can achieve formlessness by being formless right from the get-go. Which,
well, you need training wheels at first.
Right. For everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about competition, the idea of competition. We talked earlier about, Taekwondo being probably the most popular art that there is out there. But I think after UFC 1 in 1993, then we saw the constant or consistent rise in popularity of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA. So a lot of people have this idea that you've got to be involved in the thing that's the so-called best. So when you hear the word competition, what does that mean to you?
An opportunity for us to connect our students. We do 2 tournaments a year for Mastery. They're closed in-house and completely self-sustained within our group. So all of our teenage future instructors are the judges, the parents are involved, our staff's involved. So we use it as a get-together, friendly competition, training environment for our future instructors, promotional, where we take all the people that have opted into our website and we invite them to we call it an open house, but it's a tournament, but they don't know any better. So I'm trying to maximize the experience as much as I can in layers, right? So to me, it's just a great opportunity for people to be involved in a tournament setting, to feel what that feels like by themselves in front of everybody. We want to give them that experience. So we do it twice a year.
Okay.
But we don't go to any other tournaments. We don't.
Right.
We don't.
Yeah. So in 1987, the May 1987 issue of Esquire magazine was the cover story was an article by the late Aikido player George Leonard, and it was all about mastery. And I had asked you earlier if that article played a role in it. Have you read the article?
No, sir.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Okay, then I'll be sure to send it to you.
Thank you.
When we finish this, because I think I mean, in appreciation for all the stuff I've gotten from you over the years, right? So I want to ask you something else. So this was a concept. This is something that I thought of a number of years ago. There's a saying: "What you see is what you get." Right?
WYSIWYG.
Okay, and most people treat that as, if I say to you, "What you see is what you get," I'm saying what you see in me, right, is what you'll get from me. And then I forget what exactly it is that I was reading, but somebody took that statement and turned it on its head for me. And now the "what you see is what you get" is reversed. So it's really saying what I see is what I get. You see? So we're not externalizing it, we're internalizing it. So the question is, how does a person go about improving his or her, I'll coin a phrase, self-vision? How do you go about improving the vision of what you see for yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. Somebody asked me yesterday in a private message, how do I define success or happiness? And I said to him, here's the person you want to become. Here's where you currently are. Focus on the gap. As that gap becomes closer and closer and closer, you're living the life exactly the way you're trying to live. So there, for example, in martial arts, you may have some instructors who are teaching martial arts on the floor and everybody's looking at them. So they're acting a certain way because they're being held accountable. And then when they're not in that environment, they're at home or wherever, they act a different way. It's that gap, the distance between where you want to be and where you are, that defines your success for me. Right. So you can live, if I'm at Mastery teaching a martial arts lesson and people are watching me and I'm trying to be on my best behavior, well, maybe my best behavior is my normal behavior. Maybe and that takes work, right? I mean, it's a lot of work to work on yourself at that level.
Okay. What about, did I ask you this before? Is retention the key or one of the keys to martial arts success?
I mean, not really.
No.
Nope. So you liked the philosophy earlier I gave you, I'll give you this one. It's our goal when we train a student from white to black belt to be able to defend themselves, wait for it, against somebody who has no training of fighting at all.
Yeah.
And then for the next level, we want them to be able to defend themselves against someone who's had some training.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's how we think about it. And then for my instructors, I want them to defend themselves against anybody than, let's say, a professional MMA cage fighter. Right. So at what level in that progression do you not need, I mean, you always need to train to stay healthy, but when don't you need any more martial arts training? Meaning for this self-protection of it, right?
Yeah.
And I know that might be a foreign kind of concept for people, but yeah, to be successful in martial arts school, how do you attract people that want to hear your message? And then the message that they heard on Facebook or in an ad or somebody talking about your program, when they come to the school, there's congruency, they see it.
Yeah.
They look around and they see it. Then they start taking classes and they feel it more. Right?
Okay.
So now we have total congruency. When we have that level of alignment, then that's how you grow your school.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna hit you with one more thing.
Good.
Because I appreciate this, but maybe we can schedule another talk when you don't have such an important meeting. So here's the scenario. It's another thing that we hear about all the time. People go, oh, I wish I could get the chance to come back, right? And come back with the brain that I've developed in this lifetime, right? So it's kind of a twist on that scenario. You do get to come back, but you cannot come back with the brain that you've developed in this lifetime. What you can do, however, is use your current brain to set up that future time when you come back. So here's the question. Using the current brain, using the current knowledge to prepare for this ability to come back, you get to pick one human quality, one human trait, and one skill. What do you pick?
Great question. Great question. Human trait. I would choose. I think it's just consistency, like never giving up that spirit to just. I mean, my wife knows why mastery. She now knows why it's so successful. She calls me a robot. I mean, at 6 a.m., I'm out of bed with a smile on my face, and I can't wait to get to work. Like my brain had been working on it all night, what I was going to do for the first 4 hours of my day. And I'm up and boom, here I go. And so it's that level of consistency I see people lack. They don't have it. They can't stay focused on any one thing for any length of time to get them the outcome that they're trying to achieve. They get distracted.
Okay.
So I would definitely say consistency. The skill comes out of that consistency. I don't even know if I need it. I could just show up with consistency. I think that would be enough. But I would say if I could start with something sooner, it would be the ability to communicate and connect with everybody.
Okay. So consistency and
communication.
Is communicativeness a word?
I guess it could be for this. But your ability to relate. I mean, I've said to you a few times certain things about how I think, and you quickly said, "I've never heard that before, and I like it." That's communication. Saying it in a way to the people who are going to receive it in a way that they need to hear it from their way. Yeah. And I think that's a skill in itself.
Okay. All right. So listen, I appreciate it. We'll do this again because there's tons more. I like the poster. For those of you who can't see the poster in the back. So that was how many years ago? That was a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
2010. Yeah. So
wow.
We have Guru's right here. We have Sifu Neo. We got Salem. And
excellent.
This might have been. I think this is Joel. That was
probably. Yeah. I think that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, it's been a pleasure, right? If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
Right through Facebook, I suppose. I mean, if you're a school owner, you know that I have a group that I work with. It's an open forum that I share my ideas and thoughts about running a school, managing, leading, running your own life, and how they all relate. We can put a link in there if you want, and
Okay.
put there. People want to come join it. Obviously, it's free. It's a private group, so they just have to ask to join, and I'll invite them in.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Greg Horton, my pleasure.
Good to see you again.
Okay,
Sir.
we'll do this again.
All right.
All right, everybody, this is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel, signing off from Jeet Kune Dialogues, episode number 5. You guys have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.